Blessings, everyone. Welcome to the channel. This is Lady Be Unstoppable. Well, guys, this video is gonna be very informational, very educational. Unstoppable will be talking or will be reasoning with Daniel. Daniel is a Maroon, and Unstoppable is gonna give you the full introduction, is going to tell you about Daniel, and then Daniel is going to take it away. Watch the video till the end and let me know what you guys think. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, this is the right time for you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Watch the video till the end.
Now, what's today's conversation going to be based on? Let me tell you. A lot of Jamaicans are not familiar or was not familiar with the Maroons. Now, we heard of Maroons because we learned about them in school and stuff like that, but a lot of Jamaicans had no idea that Maroons still existed in Jamaica until recently, and it may be a little controversial, you understand, because a lot of controversy surrounding the Maroon community right now too, as we know, and their names coming up a lot more, especially one in specific, which is the chief, right? But we have a special guest here with us this evening who is going to help us to dissect the whole Maroon thing, and we're going to get into deep details and talk about the Maroons in Jamaica and learn a little bit more about them. You understand? Because we need to be educated about the Maroons and what they stand for and what they're all about. All right. So if you want to hear more about the Maroons and what they stand for in Jamaica, then stick and stay with this conversation, because like I said, it's going to be a very, very interesting and engaging one. And also share out the program so that more persons can forward over and take a listen to what's going on. So if you're on Facebook, share it out to some groups, share it out to as many groups as possible. And if you're on YouTube, share it to Facebook in some groups, share it to a WhatsApp contact, and invite some persons over. All right. Now, who is my guest? I'm seeing someone in the comment section asking who is the guest, right? Now, his name is Daniel Bozra, right? And he is a very prominent member of the Maroon community. Now, Daniel is here to have this conversation with us this evening. You understand? And we're going to touch upon a bit of the controversial topics them too. But the main focus of this reasoning is to learn about the Maroons. All right. So as long as you understand that's what this conversation is all about, then we're good. Now remember, on this platform, we don't deal with disrespect. So if you're here and you want to learn something, you want to participate in the conversation, keep the comment section respectful and clean. All right. So that we're not going to have no issues. Share your opinions, share your comments, but be respectful is all that I ask. All right. So we're going to introduce the guest to the program right now. And here he is. Daniel, what go on, my brother?
Blazing perfect black light, enough love and respect, my brother. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure, Daniel. It's a pleasure. You know what I'm going to do now, my brother? I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself properly to the viewers on Facebook and YouTube. You understand? And let them know exactly who you are and what you do. What is your role in the Maroon community? Go right ahead, my general.
Well, I'm the son of Sadie and Bobby, the grandson of Cinderella, the great-grandson of Barwill Foster. I'm an compound Maroon. I can't be anything greater than that. That's my greatest, being the son of my parents. They sent me to good schools. I went to Mona Prep and Wolmer's, went to college, UWI, Cuba, Spain, Monterey, and I'm first and foremost an compound Maroon. I operate the Cannabis Cancer Center. It's been 13 years since I've been healing cancer, fibroids, fibromyalgia, blood pressure, diabetes, using the oil extracted from cannabis on a fully scientific level. And I am just a pillar of Maroon defense. I have armed myself with the requisite understanding and information and historicity to defend it from any onslaught that would seek to degrade, or reduce our standard in this world.
All right, cool. Now, Daniel, you've you've heard about a lot of the controversy we are going as far as your community is concerned right now. But we are going to touch upon that later on in the conversation, you know. But as you heard me say earlier, this conversation is about Jamaicans learning more about the Maroons, right? Because as you and I was talking earlier, and I told you that a lot of Jamaicans never even know that Maroons still existed in Jamaica, right? So what I want to do right now is give us a little bit of background on the Maroons and the history of the Maroons in Jamaica.
Okay, well, you see, there is the official narrative which says Maroons are runaway slaves, right? But the unofficial narrative, as per our history, because the funny thing is, Jamaicans have not come to Maroons and asked us our history. We're here. They have simply sat down under British colonialism and crafted a story about us. First is our origin. 710 AD, Africans invaded Spain across Cartahadas, that they call Carthage, that is now called Morocco. Africans invaded Spain. They stayed there for 700 years. We were defeated at the Battle of Granada in 1490, 710 AD to 1490. Columbus sailed 1492. 2 years after them defeat us, that's when Europe started to travel the world. You think they may have gotten those maps and that technology from us if we were there 700 years before. But then, Spain, we were brought here by Spain.
Daniel, I get a call. Make him start that out in a day.
Yeah, where you gone? All right,
Right,
sorry.
I get a call. Me see that. All
Yeah,
right,
just
you're
have to
back.
turn that off.
All right,
Right,
go ahead.
I have it there. You were brought here by Spain. But Spain never went to Africa for slaves. Yo, I'm gonna call you back. I can't call you now. I'm on a radio program. I can't speak to you now. Jeez. You're insisting. Sometimes I start going on because when you heal life and you save lives, like I said, we run the Cannabis Cancer Center, so you never know.
We know where it go. We know where it go. We know where it go. All right,
Right.
continue.
So one of the things is, right, Spain has never told the world what you did with 700 years of black men. Where are they? If black men rule Spain for 700 years, you understand me? You're supposed to have a huge trace of them. Spain never went to Africa for any slaves. Spain never had a slave trade. So where did Spain get the blacks on our plantation in Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, South America? That's who she brought. We are the former rulers of Spain who were there for 700 years. When they defeated us 1490, Spain put the bodies on 3 islands to contain us as prison islands: Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti. That's where all the blacks in Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti, the majority came from. We were the ones who they took out of Spain. They put the baddest, they put the ruling class on Jamaica, they put the warrior class in Haiti and the mass of the people. They put the priestly class predominantly on Cuba. That's why the Yoruba is so forceful and strong down there. But having been rulers of these Europeans for 700 years, we were not afraid of them. So many of us took over the ships on the way here, including my ancestors, landed on our own and united with the indigenous of the island and ran away to the mountains. Now, you have been told that the indigenous are Indians. But pray tell, if I'm on my way to China and I don't make it there, how could I find Chinese? So if Columbus claimed he was trying to find India and did not make it to India, he could not have found Indians. If one goes to the University of Barcelona and Madrid and Rome and the universities in Italy and Spain, you will find the very ship logs that the conquistadors had, that a captain had to write down every day what happened and what he experienced. Right. When you go to the ship logs of Columbus, when you go to the ship logs of Vasco da Gama and Cortez, and you read what they wrote, they tell you that they found dark-skinned people like the Ethiopians around here. If one bears in mind that the Garifuna people of St. Vincent and Barbados and the Grenadines, who were taken out by the British and sent to Honduras and Belize are the British came and found them around here and they weren't brought by the Spaniards. These are the descendants of Mansa Musa who left Mali with 800 ships of men in 1300 AD. Left Mali with 800 ships of men and 800 ships of supplies. His descendants were found around here in these islands as the Garifuna with their own language.
Yeah.
This is not taught on any level to the average person in the Caribbean education system. That's not made known to it. That understanding is not given. He has no clue about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's who we are. We are the former rulers. So because of that, we were indomitable in our resistance of being enslaved by the Spaniards. No, the Spaniards left the island. No, the lie that has been told is that there was a war for this island. And that Penn and Venables. When I go and look at the British records, there's no records of any fleet of ships leaving from anywhere in Britain to come and take this island in 1665. There's no records in the Spaniards' records of any war for this island. What you will find if you simply go to Wikipedia and you type up governors of Jamaica, of the island of Jamaica from 1600 to today. And you see there's an overlap in time when there was the interim governor of Britain and the governor of Spain until the Spaniards left. You will find that there is a treaty of Madrid between Britain and Spain for the island. You were never taught that in any school in Jamaica that there was a treaty of Madrid for this island. What you are given is a narrative that if you repeat that narrative effectively, you get an A. It's not a matter of it being true or not. It's a matter of how much, let us see if we can program you. Let's just tell you some foolishness. And if you repeat that foolishness, it then tells us we can program you to other foolishness.
Right.
So that's who we are. So with that understanding, you must understand that this is a different set of people that were brought by the British. Totally different from the ones that were brought by the Spaniards. Because the one that the Spaniards brought were not taken from Africa, but were out of Africa in Europe, ruling Europe for 700 years.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, Daniel, that the teachings that we got about the Maroons is inaccurate, is what you're saying?
But let me ask you a question. You see, because there, you have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
You never had a class. I've been through the entire curriculum. There's no class from primary school to high school to university that details about the Maroons. You have not one chapter in any book. Where did you learn about the Maroons? If it's not a part of your curriculum, then most Jamaicans talk about the Maroons. It's a rumbar talk.
Right.
You cannot tell me which class you have, which history book you saw an entire chapter on the Maroons.
And that is one of the reasons why I stated that, Jamaicans, speaking of us Jamaicans, don't really know the history of the Maroons. You understand? We don't know the details of the Maroon and the history, surrounding it. Because them only give you what them want we know.
Narratives. And half of what they give you is not even true. It is just something. So as to not give you the truth, I give you a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave you repeating that story for 5, 6, 7, 8 generations. Maybe 10, 20 generations before you come to the truth.
Right.
Because this is what has happened with Jamaicans. Because you are told in your history class that Maroons were runaway slaves.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But they don't tell you where did Spain never went to Africa. Spain never had a slave trade. You see, it's because Spain took all the 700 years of black men in Africa that they call the Moors. The word Moor comes from the Spanish word moro, which means black. It's what they call us. Nobody ever called themselves Moors. Moors is what the Spaniards call the blacks, from the Spanish word moro. It's Castilla, from the Castellano dialect, Moreno. Now, Spain, after 700 years, Spain just moved us, come down here, and Spain had to get rid of the blacks. The 700 years of black men sexing down Europe is what created the Latina. Them have the shape and the figure of black women, but them kind of have a look where them don't look fully like the black woman, but them brownish kind of. That's who they are. They are the descendants of the interbreeding of 700 years. That's why they call them Morena.
Right.
It's hinted in the language. Linguistic precision is everything. So the very Morena that they call the Latin women hints to the fact that they are of black descendants. Now, because Spain had those blacks all over Latin America and Central America. Spain conquered, got Central America, so Spain had to contain the baddest. She put us on 3 islands to contain us, like prison islands. The baddest were put on these 3 islands. Spain and France and Portugal, not having had 700 years of blacks in their country to throw out, they now had to start a slave trade to go look a set of blacks to work for them. You understand how it come about now?
Right.
Because you see, history takes place in geography. History, anyone who attempts to teach you history and not teach you geography simultaneously is scamming you. Because the history did not take place in thin air. It took place on a geographical point of reference. You see me? Then we come on the island and we're there. We united with the indigenous, the Maroon, the black-skinned people that were on the island. If you go into the French records and the British records, they call them Black Caribs. You see, that's why they tell you that the Caribs was aggressive, and how can you not be aggressive to them? They made it look as if the Caribs were, remember, you can't tell the relationship between the Caribs and the so-called Iraqs because you were not here to see that. All you could have seen was you coming to take over the people, and the Caribs were aggressive towards you. But black people reading these books are made to think the Caribs were bad. How could you not be aggressive to a set of Europeans invading, raping, killing, and robbing and plundering your land? Aggression was the only answer.
Exactly.
So they tell you the Caribs were savage, and they were cannibals on these islands with so much food. Seriously? Impossible. You mean you're gonna leave mango and jackfruit and banana to eat? Sure. Lies of white people. But then they come up with a set of people that they call the Arawaks that were peaceful. Here's the scam. In the people who came and the other history books I read at Ulma's, I was made to understand intense and in-depth anthropology, meaning they told me how their societies were structured and how they grew. No, that kind of in-depth anthropology would have taken 550 years of undisturbed observation. You claim that you kill them off in 50 years, so how are you giving me an anthropology about how them live? That's impossible. Right. Impossible. You cannot be at war with a man and then try to attempt to give me a detailed anthropology of the society. That's another white lie. Intelligently.
So what is your analysis, Daniel, as to why they try to sell with so much lies?
Then look at what it has brought. Utter confusion and the inability for us to unite as one. Utter confusion, utter separation, utter ignorance, utter destitution because we have no understanding of self. That's what it is. Remember, you're dealing with somebody. You see, when you say why, this is a man who was raping and killing at will. Do you understand that of all the stories they write about slavery, no one writes about the sexual exploitation that took place in slavery? They try to sweep it like it never happened. Listen to me. If he could kill if any white man could kill any black man, beat any black man, it meant that any white man could go into the female slave quarters and demand sex. She couldn't even hesitate from any black woman, including your mother. No black man could deny, or black woman could deny a command from a white man. So what do you think they were doing? The sexual exploitation in slavery was savage. But they try to not mention that as if it was just beating you and working you.
Right.
So what do you expect from people like this? You expect them to come now and just tell you the truth? Seriously. That's disappointing if we were to expect that. We would not have learned a lesson. If we expect these people to be good to us, then we actually deserve to be enslaved another 500 years.
Now, Daniel, let me ask you another question now, because all right, with the Maroons in Jamaica right now, is there a group of you who is trying to educate the Jamaican people more about this? On a wide scale.
All right, this would have best been done from an official position. I am just there, and we find that is not the requisite research. Because you have to dedicate it to a thing and really love your people. In order, for example, as me to have been given the world laying out in front of you and many options, but I choose to understand myself more than I chose to gravel. and seek to be like anybody else.
Right.
So this demands that it comes from our official position. You hear none of the Maroon leaders speaking the way I do, which means effectively that none of them, even in the midst of having a position, have not spent the requisite hours researching their own identity in order to effectively present it and defend it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell a man how to be. I'm just being who I am, which who I am slated to be as per destiny. So you have to, you know, get that so much. We're hoping to get there. Like I said, I personally and my team, a Compound News. We're a director of a Compound News, and they are come. Big up to the CEO, Mr. Dennis Foster. Big up to Mr. Duncan Buchanan and Mr. David Holmes and the other members of the team. Mr. Ardley Rowe, the chairman of the board. You know, special shout out the stabilizing force, Mr. Ardley Rowe, and myself, among other people. We operate a Compound News. That is, if you go on a Compound News, for example, go on a compoundnews.com. We have our own communication system like Facebook. It's called Maroonity. You can sign up, use your email, join up, post info, put up your profile picture, post information, make comments, share comments on other people's page, message, whatever. And we have over 3,000 documents, historical documents that you can download. The PDFs are there for you to download. You can go and see the court case with Appleton, because Appleton is on Maroon land. There's no, Appleton belongs to their company Maroons. All of that land, that's a valley in the middle of the Coptics. The British were nowhere near us there. Just like how Quickstep and all those places. We have, go on the Maroonity, and there's over 3,000 documents posted there. Give thanks again to their Compound News team. You know, big up to CEO Mr. Dennis Rowe and Duncan Buchanan and David Holmes. You know, myself, Daniel Basra, as the dunce in the crew. But always, I move with a set of people that I am the dunce in the crew. We have that information. We have over, for those who want it, Maroonity at compoundnews.com. And we have over 3,000 documents, historical documents that one can download these PDF and get the clarity. Mm-hmm. That's the best we're doing so far. We hope to eventually be able to force the government of Jamaica, because that's what sovereignty is. You cannot tell a wrong story about me while I'm here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's an attack. That's abuse.
We should touch that part there, Daniel. As we say, we want to go through the history of the Maroons first before we get down to that part of the conversation. Right? So we kind of basically cover, you know, the Maroon history and all of that and where it came from. But the next thing we more have to ask before we get to the controversial part there, as I said, is we weren't hearing about the Maroons up until the whole cockpit country thing, right? The Maroons was basically silent. We never had to hear nothing about them. I want to ask you this before I even ask you the next question. Who was the chief prior to the present chief? What's his name?
Mr. Ferran Williams. Before Ferran Williams, it was I think it was Murdy Rowe. Mr. Petty, and before Mr. Petty, it was Murdy Rowe. We're celebrating 284 years. We have always been here having our celebrations, and Jamaicans have always been coming. What it meant, what happened is that in a time of less media access, the post-colonial media with colonial tendencies chose not to highlight what we were doing. In today's world, the internet, everything is just out there, and you cannot avoid the fact that we are here. But we have always been here. We have always been functional. Bob Marley's mother is a Maroon. Marcus Garvey's mother is a Maroon. We can count. Our presence has always been here. The amount of Maroons that work in the office of the Prime Minister, in the People's National Party, and in several. There's no government officer I can find a Maroon. Where them come from, Charlestown, Moortown, Flagstaff, a compound, Scotsall. That is not just a compound. You understand? There are several communities, and we were all one, because when the British came to surrender, because it was a surrender, you know, they tell you it was a treaty, you know. Because that is the white man's story. I don't want to look shame saying it surrender to the blacks. Because he had one set of blacks on the plantation. For him to admit that he surrendered to a next set of blacks would have been too shameful. So him says a treaty. But in war, they say if they walk, it's because you win. Now they were hunting for a compound town for 80 odd years and couldn't find it, but they still walk here, blindfolded, led by us, because we won. Remember that the so-called treaty And the surrender only came about because the King of England sent 600 of his sharpest, finest soldiers who would be like Green Berets today. And Kojo killed 598 of them. Kojo and the army, the Maroon army and Nani and Kwaku and everybody. Between all of us, we killed 598 of them. He left 2 of them alive and cut off their ears and tied them back to back and put them on a horse and slap the horse and send them back. And tell them, say, tell King George the next time he has to send 60,000.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, they said, Lord, we can't take this because if they killed them. That's where the concept of the land of look behind come from. Because the 2 men them took back to back. And the horse a ride out, so one a look back. The land of look behind. That concept came from when Kojo put the 2 men them back to back and slap the horse and send them out of the captive boat.
Mm.
When that happened, that's when the British put up a white flag and said, yo, no, you put up a white flag. It means you surrendered. And we took your surrender at Kinder Tree. That's why you walk to a compound. If you are in a position of any authority as Britain, the mighty Britain, we'd have had to walk to Black River. And it was, the history shows, the prolegomena of treaty show that there was not a written document. Because for international law to be valid, let us say there is a written document. Because quite possibly there might be. But a written document would have to have been written in Spanish. Because Kojo and we would have more likely spoken Spanish and not English. So you'd have to have a international law, so for a treaty to be valid, it must be in the language of both parties. No, we did not speak English, so you cannot present an English-only treaty and purport that to be valid in international law. Now you ask for the surrender, and then this document only has your demands. Only British demands. Meaning that's not a treaty. You cannot come to the first meeting of 2 warring parties with a document that you alone have drafted and call it a treaty. A treaty is only drafted after me and you sit down at the table 20 times. But through Jamaican ex-slaves of the white man as master, when master say I saw it go, I saw it go. Given a choice to choose between a set of blacks and the white enslaver, the former slaves have chosen to believe unequivocally in their former white enslaver.
Right. You know why me I laugh, Daniel? The reason why me I laugh, is because that was about to be my next question, about the treaty, and you basically I shut it down right now. Because as you are aware, right? There's a conversation, a hot conversation right now about the treaty, right? And you basically telling me right now that whatever treaty is being discussed is not valid.
No, but there's no question as to the Maroons' sovereignty. Because you, at present, use a Jamaican birth certificate. That makes you a subject of the British Crown. The Prime Minister and all members, Jamaica does not have a constitution. Jamaica has a document called the Order of Jamaica 1962. Go on the United Nations website. All countries' constitution are there, and click on Jamaica's constitution, and you see it says Order of Jamaica 1962. An order from the Crown. That's what it says. Order of Jamaica 1962. An order from the Crown. It's an order from the Queen how you're going to run our place for her. It's not a constitution. The word constitution is on the page in brackets, in lowercase. Now, if it's in brackets, in law, that means that word is not to be considered on the page. So the Prime Minister and your government operate on an order from the Queen. You are not independent as one word. You're actually in dependence. It's 2 words. You're living independence. In a state of dependence. You're in a state of dependence. You're not independent as one word. The Parliament cannot open unless the Queen's mace is in there. The Governor General, if you're assigned the Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, if you're assigned the Attorney General, if you're assigned the Commissioner of Police, all these job titles that have Governor, General, Commissioner, these are all Crown appointments that the Prime Minister can only make the recommendation, but the Governor General has to sign off on because you work for the Queen. The Registrar General is the the deputy records keeper for the British Crown. The official records keeper for the British Crown is the Chief Justice. You have been had Jamaican people. Let them playing more, they're playing like a figure. So far from independence. You operate. So if you're operating on a document called the Order of Jamaica, it means that you're the helper in the yard. No, if the owner of the yard being the crowd surrender to me, who am I to have a discussion with the helper? I can't come to your yard, my brethren, and in a discussion with your helper as to how your yard must run. So there's no Maroon leader who should be in any prolonged discussion with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is technically lower than the Maroon chief, because the Governor General's office surrendered to the Maroon chief's office. It means that the premier lord of the land is the Maroon chief. But then again, some are not real kings, so they don't even understand that. Them still coming in a subservient manner. Linguistic precision is everything in law. We're not dealing with a legality here, we're dealing with law. Law and legal are two very different things. We don't do legal, we do lawful. Little clarity for you and your listeners, my brother.
Definitely. Tell me your take on the whole cockpit country thing now. Because as I stated before, that is when a lot of Jamaicans started hearing about the money.
Okay, one of the biggest things is that Jamaican government has named the British Crown. Wherever the British Crown was at 1738, that's where the Jamaican government working for the British Crown is subjected to. They were never in the Coptic. It is an attempt at land appropriation and to steal the mineral wealth because they have already collected for it. All right, here we have, for example, there was this big hullabaloo about meeting that was kept where Chief Curry was not invited. That whole meeting, everybody talk about the fact that Chief Curry wasn't invited and no one wants to address or no one mentioned what exactly was the meeting about. That meeting was about trying to sort out the finances and the company that will manage the finances from the $49 million UNDP Coptic Country Preservation and Sustainable Development Grant, right? So the government of Jamaica, not being the owners of the Coptic, swooped down and are now backing with the Maroons and with Chief Curry in order to show who has authority over it. So there's a plan afoot, let me just share this with the people. No, there's a big plan afoot to try to get the Maroons to move from being indigenous to tribal. Because once you're indigenous, you have your rights to your own nation and your everything. But once you're tribal, then you become a tribe under the control of the Jamaican government. And that's what they're trying to do. That's why when we use the name and the word indigenous, it abhors and scares them because they understand it puts them in a position of violation of international law. A scam of them. I'm going to just call it that. The political mainstream and the legal fraternity has forever been scamming you. Let us show you how they have been scamming you. The laws of Jamaica, the Constitution of Jamaica guarantees every Jamaican freedom of expression. If that expression is BC, RC, PC, you have not lost the right to that freedom of expression. So it then means that the Bad Word Act that was passed by the legal fraternity is unconstitutional, and the Minister of Justice and all the functionaries and everybody who was member of the legal fraternity when that act was passed are guilty of violation of constitutional violation, because the Constitution guarantees every Jamaican freedom of expression. If that expression is bumbleclot, I have not lost the right to that expression. So how dare you attempt to charge me monetary penance for a right that is guaranteed to me under the Constitution? You're being scammed. They will not disrespect my mother and father's lunch money. Edification and articulation, blazing unapologetically. We are calling them out as the criminals they are against the people. Every lawyer, the entire legal fraternity who sat down and allowed the Bad Word Act to be passed, knowing it was unconstitutional, they should be charged in constitutional court. Only the young lawyers must get it. But every lawyer who was a member of the bar when that Bad Word Act was passed is guilty of constitutional violation. of Jamaica's people's right to freedom of expression.
But Daniel, all right, you speak of the Constitution now, right? I think you get a call again.
Yeah.
You speak of the Constitution now and saying they are in violation of the Constitution. But prior to that, you mentioned that it's the Queen's order. There is no real Constitution.
We have to use the terminology that they use. You call it a constitution, we are just explaining that it's not. But since you call it, so I have to talk to you upon your level. If you're a baby, I'm going to go go. If you're an adult, then I'll address you as such. But clearly the people, they don't understand it's not a constitution. They still think it is. So let's talk to them along that level. It's an order. So according to the order of Jamaica, every Jamaican has the right to freedom of expression. So the Bad Word Act is a violation of that right. It's simple maths. You have the right to freedom of expression, whatever that expression is. So for someone to put a charge on a word that you express, that's violation of that order.
So,
but most of the people who would understand it are all part and parcel of whether the Masonic Lodge or the Mechanics Lodge or the Forester Lodge or the Order of the Rosicrucians or whatever one of their Masonic orders, and are sworn to the Queen. So they just allow the masses to be abused so that they can be a part of the top 1 or 3% or 1 to 3% that really understand what's going on. It's not their benefit to educate the people. So they just allow you to be used and abused.
All right, so my initial question, Daniel, was the cockpit country thing. Is there mining in the cockpit country as it stands right
now?
No,
man, there have been pockets and pockets of mining consistently. Man, them running in with truck in a place so nobody don't know. And by the time you find out 2 weeks later, them dig out and hole it. You understand me? So there is, I mean, Jamaicans don't understand. In 1992, the University of the West Indies put out the Geochemical Atlas of Jamaica. Now, this is a satellite mapping of all the chemicals present all over the island. Go and check it out for yourself. The Geochemical Atlas of Jamaica, 1992, University of the West Indies. It details where everything is found, where you find borium, iron, where you find copper, gold, everything. They know where everything is. So they're targeting specific areas. So like they already know that this area is full with uranium, plutonium, borium, the things that they need to keep their technology running. All of the rare earth technology, that metals that they need to keep their technology world running. The lithium for the batteries, all of that is found up in these mountains because, the kind of pressure that it takes to create these mountains creates those and forms and formates these high density kinds of chemicals and metals that are necessary for their technology. They know what they're going for. They're not discovering anything by chance. They know specifically. They know, if you look at that map, the Geochemical Atlas of Jamaica, and you go to the page that shows where uranium is, you see the whole of this area is filled with 92 to 96 percentile for tonnage uranium. And wherever there's uranium, there's a whole lot of offshoot metals and chemicals that are found. So they know what they're coming for, my brother. This is not a game.
Because like I stated, before all of that, we weren't hearing much about the Maroons, right? Because obviously, only they are doing a thing, and like you mentioned, with social media now, everything is being captured and just put out there to the public, right? And I asked you who was the previous chief prior to the one now. You mentioned that the present chief right now seems to be in a lot of controversy as it relates to the PM and the Maroons, right?
I wouldn't call it that. It's just half steppings by the government to see if he can hold him foot in or not. But his indigenous rights are secure and indomitable and immovable and inalienable. And inevitably victory. We have Maroons have already won. The issue is the government trying to get us to deal with them as opposed to us taking the issue to a third-party arbitration via an international court. But then, as we said, the issue is out in the open, so it's only a matter of time before it gets there. All of the games that they're playing and trying to make Chief Curry look as if he's this criminal and this gangster, it's quite opposite. I am more the criminal and the gangster than Chief Curry. And them have to back away from me. I am the man they don't want to get into a discussion with because they realize. So them know, so them can't play with Chief Curry. They're just trying to see and test to see if he has his foot in shore. It's an intimidation tactic. It's just the same way the police come on the scene and see some man and just, what are you doing here? And try to talk bad like him one is afraid. And if a man shot back off him get bummy. So we met the Prime Minister know say.
That leads me to
we
my next.
We beat him and backward him name over there you way. We have to have a next Prime Minister for beat us, but not backward.
That leads me to my next question, Daniel. When you mentioned the police, now we've all seen the incidents of the police coming in on a compound town, right? And they were basically get run out. Now
I ran them out first, and then Chief Curry run them out after that.
Yeah, I saw your video as well. I saw your video as well, and I saw the one with Chief Curry. Now, my question is it that a compound town is not a part of Jamaica? Because that is what people is of the impression now. Because
no, but then the government collects taxes everywhere except on Maroon land. What does that tell you?
So are you saying that on a sovereign, more you come out straight?
I'm not saying that. The Prime Minister in his 2019 address on the 6th of January posted that on his Facebook page. Says the treaty he's celebrating when the fact that the British culture stood on the mountain and watched the British walk up to him and stood in honor. And he says it was a treaty between two sovereign nations. The Prime Minister said that they are reneging now and retracting because them collect the people their money and start spending it. So it's almost like me tell people, say, you have piece of land and me tell people, you have mango on your land and me tell people so me can't get them mango. And I collect them mango. When me come to you now, you're not ready to sell no mango. And me want to quarrel with you. Because me done collect the people their money. There's lots of criminality involved. And we call out the government for its... The United Nations and the world know that they are corrupt. At present, the UNDP is doing a serious investigation in the records of its office in Jamaica. Because they're finding that the government of Jamaica has been collecting money in the names of the indigenous people for projects. And when the people think they were going to pass it on to us, they just keep it amongst themselves and don't say nothing to us. Presently, the United Nations is an in-depth audit of the records of the UNDP office in Jamaica. And it correlates to the records of the government. They are criminals and we need to stop pretending that they are not. That's the thing. We all grew up in Jamaica. We heard what happened when evening time, who would burn down every Jamaican, know who did involve because it's so. But we still pretend. No, because I know so them can't sue me. May I beg them from when? They can't. They have no lawyer in their legal fraternity bright enough and intellectually capable of bringing a lawsuit against Daniel Badger. So I know they can't. So we say, yes, we tell the truth. They are criminals. And the various ministries, if they are audited, you will find criminal activity having taken place. Just as though there was a road to be cut to be done in a compound town. And if you look at the government records say 3 inches of tar was put on the road. Yes, still the road is here now washing away because only 1 inch of tar upon it. So they build international agencies for 3 inches of tar and the criminals in the Jamaican government take the rest of money.
But
stop playing. We have to stop playing hypocrite as Jamaican. We know so there is a bunch of criminals.
But Daniel,
we want to show you the list of politicians who have gone to prison for various crimes since 1962.
Daniel, what I want you to do, because more you give me a straight up answer, you know, right? When it comes to Maroon sovereignty, more you give me a straight up answer.
We are sovereign. 1738.
Here you go.
1738 trumps 1962.
Now, my next
there are only 2 landowners. There are only 2 landowners on the island. The Crown and Maroons. Your land title, if you have one, says you're a landholder. You can't own it because you're a subject of the Crown. It's only Maroons who own land. So we must be sovereign to own land.
So the police is not authorized to enter a compound town?
No, then look now. All right, I've said it. Let me say it again. At my uncle's funeral in a compound town, I took my unlicensed 45 and I stood over his grave and started a gun salute. And I'm saying to Mr. Commissioner, if you have any authority, come and charge me for an illegal firearm now. I'm here in a compound and I'm daring you, because I've been wanting to go and argue the issue in court and prove my sovereignty once and for all of my people. The police have no jurisdiction and can't charge me for nothing up here. You know, that's why I could have run them out of the town. They had their firearms pulled enough. I'm fearless to run them out of a compound town, and they had to put their tails under their legs and drive down the hill, because they're servants of the crown and their master surrendered to me and my ancestors. We are sovereign. Here's the hypocrisy. People are behaving as if it's impossible to have a state within a state, when everybody knows about Monaco, which is a state in the middle of France. There is San Marino, a state in the mountains in the middle of Italy. Okay, there is Saint Martin, which half of the island belongs to France, half of the island belongs to the Dutch. If you're on the French side and the police are changing and you drive over to the Dutch side, the French police have to call the Dutch police to capture you, because the French police can't drive over there unless they get explicit permission from the Dutch people to keep chasing them over onto the Dutch side. So this is nothing new. It's just that black people are finding it hard that it's okay when white people have these opportunities, but can we give this? We are enslaved blacks. Why should we give this opportunity to another set of blacks who free themselves? It's the black people that have a problem with a set of black people having a sovereign state, separate and apart from the crown state. This is nothing new. The American Indians have the same situation. So why is everybody behaving like it's so unheard of? Mm-hmm. We say they can go and trick their dogs because they will not trick I.
So Daniel, many say things like, if you're not sovereign, why you not use
because it is there to use, and we were held back by the dirty criminal Jamaican white empowered colonial government. So now, finally, there's the generations of Maroons with the edification, education, intellect, articulation, who are going to put the necessary things in place. Leave us alone for 20 years and see what happens. Better yet, leave us alone for 10. Not having it does not mean it's not my right. So allow me, give us an opportunity. I studied in Cuba. My youngest child is born in Cuba. The Cuban ambassador, the Cuban government is ready now, once we put up the place, to send us doctors and we can run our own hospital. We have all the necessary things. Leave us alone and stop trying to fight that Jamaican people. Because we are a tax-free state, it means that when we set up a bank, if you bank here, you don't pay Jamaican government tax. Just like how the movie stars and the famous people bank their money in Monaco and don't pay American their respective countries tax. Take us as an opportunity and do not let a bad mind nature take you over. Simple.
Let's get a little bit controversial now, Daniel.
Pardon?
All right. Let's get a little bit controversial now. You speak of you're shooting off a couple rounds at your illegal firearm. You mentioned that a while ago.
Maroons were never disarmed. We were never. It has nothing to do with your criminality. We have had 3 murders in the last 300 years. 3. We were never disarmed.
Let me get to the question.
Okay,
You mentioned
sir.
that, right? You mentioned that, say, you're at the funeral, you bust off a couple rounds and all of that, right? And you actually plea to the Jamaican authorities, say, here, come lock me up because I want to go to court and prove this, right? You mentioned
For sure, you said. Of course.
All right. This is my next question now. The present chief is all up in the news because of the FLA and his firearm, which according to the report,
turned in mine. I too turned in mine. I turned in mine too.
And
yes.
Why is that?
Because I don't need nothing from them. Because once I understood some sovereign, I have my own right. Because I get my own, I don't need nothing from them. And I know that I possess the edification and the articulation to defend it against their best.
Hold on, you turn in your firearm is what you're saying?
Then there was a time when we operated in ignorance and we would have had a licensed firearm from them. When we want to recognize through law that we don't need one from them, we give it back. So we're glad them take with the chief, but him still don't need it. Doesn't mean he's going to be unarmed. He's their compound chief. He must always have a sidearm on him, unapologetically. Our history has been that we have seen, growing up as a child, coming here for holidays, I saw my chiefs walking with firearms. Almost every house in Maroon Town had a gun.
So, Daniel, see, what I want you to clarify for me right now is you're telling me that you turned in the firearm which was licensed, right? That you had a license for. You turned that into them along with the chief who did the same thing.
Because then I was operating as a British Crown servant. When I freed myself and stood as an indigenous, I don't need it. I'm in a different status. I don't need it.
Let me complete the question. You say you're turning in them there. So what you're now saying that the Maroons are still armed?
No, I am armed. Me not talk me Basra. Me Daniel Basra, the man from Basra, with his garments dipped in blood. The blood of my end. I am armed perpetually.
Without the FLA.
It's my right. Then if I'm hungry, I want to shoot. I want to shoot to corn in the bush. What am I going to do? Run go to beg somebody permission for to feed myself? You crazy? However, no, I understand the problems. I understand the issues you're coming with. Now let me explain to you. We have Mr. Donahue Rowe, and I come from Maroon. He's the brother of Major Rowe at the Jamaica Defense Force. Donahue runs private personal security, does firearm training and everything. We have our own firearm training manual that surpasses the standards of the FLA. So once we put our people through that training, we are indigenous and we have the right to do so. And once we have gone through our training, our certification stands and certifies them to carry a firearm. That's where we are at. We're not groveling to anyone. Big up to Donahue Rowe. Maroons are now in the position possessing the requisite education, edification, articulation, and clarity to prostate, to move forward without having to beg anybody to show us what to do.
So you're telling me that is the reason the chief turned in him gun and not because...
No, that's a whole different thing. The issue is not about the chief. The issue is about the risk, the birthright of an indigenous community. Chiefs come and go and die and leave and are voted out. It's never about the chief.
No, the issue at hand right now that I am talking about, Daniel, is what is in the media and what the Jamaican people is seeing and hearing, right?
As usual.
And right, but listen to what I'm saying. Hear me out. What the Jamaican people is seeing and hearing is the Maroon community coming out and saying, listen, we are sovereign and we not have to answer to no other government. We not have to do what the government says we do. We can do what we want to do because we are...
Yes.
We are our own.
How me for answer to a 90? You ask me, who have been here living free since 1738. The answer to Andrew Owens and the set of dons them about to the British Crown. Listen what you're doing. You're asking me, a free man, to answer to former slaves. The brethren, wake up and smell the coffee, man. Here, like this, man. Take a draw, brethren. You need a blaze, man. So, free up your mind, man.
So, right, just for clarification, for the people who probably not understand and hear
we international, United Nations, section 17, 19, and 24, the United Nations Charter for the Rights of Indigenous People, affords us that right. It's not a discussion we have to have with you. The government already assigned to that we have these rights, and that's the problem. The American Indians don't want to ask Black Arm, the federal government, for permission to walk with rifles on their territory. Or even in the wider America, they don't need that permission. So why is it so difficult for Black people to understand that there's a set of melanated people who also own that, hold those rights? Or it's because if we were broke one, if it was white, it would be okay? I know.
So what is actually in the making right now as it stands? Because
you're witnessing the growth of a nation. Just sit back and observe. Give us time. Watch what we're going to do in the next 10 years. You will see it. You will be here to see it.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying with time, the Maroon community might be the true leaders of...
Chief Curry was born in the 70s, in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. We are that first generation. Our grandparents did not go to school. We are the first generation to get what is needed to do it. Let us do it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't ask my grandfather to do it. He ran a sugar mill. I was a Obia man, very powerful too. You understand me? I couldn't ask my grandmother to do, my great grandfather to do it. Barwill faster. I couldn't ask my grandmother to do it. Remember, you know, in order for my grandmother to go to school, to a basic school in the church, she didn't even get to go to high school. In order for my grandmother to go to a basic school, that is when the church in a compound came up here and told Maroons that they, in order for the child to go to school, they had to take a Christian name, you know. That's how they tried to eradicate who we are now. That in order for my grandmother to learn to read and write English, my grandfather had to say if she was called, had to take the name Foster, my great grandfather. That's when Maroons had to take British names, because we had to have a surname. Now let us explain to you how the word surname come. You was a slave on the plantation, they would stop you and ask you, who is your sir? And you would say, my surname, Mr. Jones, or my surname. And you would talk the name of your slave master. That's your surname. It's not S-U-R, it's S-I-R, the name of your sir.
Mm-hmm. Get you.
We will unravel the lies and the scam. So, in order to alleviate your fears, we will inform you that based on the standards that we have acquired amongst us as Maroons, we will have a better firearm training program than one that the FLA has, and there will be no scamming and criminality like we see going on now. We will have a proper firearm. That means for a Maroon to get him firearm, there will be a firearm registered with the ballistics of his firearm, and we will know if it's who fire, out of which gun that shot fire. We are meeting first world standards, but don't tell us we have to come to you and then pay that. Here's the scam. With me, when I pay to the FLA, that money goes to the British Crown. I don't need a license. A license is a permission. It's only a child need permission. I'm an indigenous, sovereign, sentient, free man with a soul. I do not use a full capital's birth certificate, so that's a scam. I am not a slave. I am not a corporation. Not even that Jamaican people understand what is a birth certificate, and everybody use it to identify. That means you're a last set of people trying to get me who free and clear. No, you need to sit down at my feet and let me explain to you and say, look here, this is what they did when your mother signed this document called the birth certificate. What's that red number at the bottom? The red number at the bottom, in the middle of the birth certificate, if you look in the middle, at the bottom, at the birth certificate, you'll see a red number. You call any international broker and says, good afternoon, I'd like to check the value of a stock. And he will say to you, no problem, just give me the stock number. And you give him that red number on your birth certificate and wait 3 minutes or so. And he will tell you what you are valued as a stock to the company called the State of Jamaica. It's stocks and bonds. You are the stock, and your birth certificate written on bonded paper with bonded edges. You don't even understand those games. So you're playing into a system that you don't understand. Yeah, hey, remember birth certificate. You know what it means? It means that you're acknowledging to be, it's a stock certificate. Stocks and bonds. You are the stock, the birth certificate is your bond, and bonds you and contracts you over to the company called the State of Jamaica. You're born in 1985, they're borrowing money in 1986. The State of Jamaica is bankrupt. What do they give to the lender to hold as a collateral? They give him the birth certificates, and he collects all the money that those people pay as tax. And that's how him recoup his money plus some profit. If your birth certificate is your title, why is it that you can only get a registered copy? Who has the original copy of your title to you? You're owned by somebody else. Whoever owns your original copy, own your man.
Do you possess a birth certificate, Daniel?
No, I cannot. I'm a living man. The birth certificate has a name in full capitals. At Mona Prep, Mrs. Gooding and Mrs. Mullings taught me that a noun is capital followed by common. I was given no class where I was taught to write my name in full capitals. However, I checked the Black's Law Dictionary. The Black's Law Dictionary says the only thing addressed in full capitals is a legally registered company. Are you a company? So why you use the birth certificate? Look on your driver's license, see the name in a full capitals. That's not a noun.
So without your without having a birth certificate, how do you conduct business, regular everyday business?
I run the cannabis cancers and the people have to pay me for cannabis oil in cash. It's a cash business. And 9 generations of ganja. You think it's hard work pay the Mona prep school fee them and buy the house where we live in? Cannabis is king. I don't even pretend. You think the school fee them and the university tuition them will pay by no hard work? The only thing you get from hard work is doctor bills and muscles. It's smart work that pays you. So we make no apology. We're not saying. So I don't need. We need. How do I do business? What kind of business is there to do in Jamaica that's effective? When you're being taxed with everything and all taxes go to the crown. The commissioner of taxes is a crown appointment. All taxes go to the crown. Is the crown alone can levy tax. That's why it's the Queen's customs you have to pay when you come here. So it's only slaves supposed to pay to the crown. I'm not a slave. I'm not paying a tax to the crown. And them can't stop me from the business on any level.
Daniel, I have a guest who is going to join us in this conversation shortly. Imhotep, who wants to join the conversation. All right, and we're going to jump into this things where we're discussing a little bit more with Imhotep. Right?
No problem.
Now, one other thing more you touched before Imhotep even joined the conversation is this. We are hearing a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot. We've heard chatter from the Maroon community at Compound Town, where a few of its residents saying that people in the community getting abused and beaten and stuff like that. What you say about that?
All right. In every place, you see, here's a hypocrisy. You do realize that all the people who were killed in Chinatown in New York were killed by Chinese, right? You realize that all the people who were killed in India, majority were killed by Indians. So this is a norm of human society that there are issues and incidences. You will not make it look as if it is something peculiar to Maroons. It happens wherever, even in Jamaica, it happens daily. So we are dealing with our issues. Jamaica only for deal with food on. Simple. This is a hypocrisy.
So these people who are speaking out, why?
No, it's okay. They may be experiencing something. I'm not saying they're not experiencing something, but it is not peculiar to Maroon Town. These are issues that happen everywhere. The people in the garden where a ball, and the people down in the rest of Jamaica where a ball say, God man, Jamaica, we have had 3 murders in the last 300 years. How much murder Jamaica have in the last 120 years? Jamaica has a problem it needs to fix and stop being pretentious and paying attention to Maroons as if we can pose any problem more than Jamaica poses to itself. Hypocritical mockers in feast.
So speaking of these murders where you say happen in a compound town, when these incidents occur, how is it dealt with legally?
Well, one can always call in independent assistance, no? Meaning, I am not an engineer, but if I need to build a bridge, I will call in a skilled engineer firm, right? So if we as an indigenous people have an issue that we can't deal with, then we might call in others to help. We can call in all the US embassy if we want, if we don't want to call in the Jamaican police. Simple. So that little hip-hop game about, oh, who are you going to call? No, we said we are growing. Give us a chance to grow. As a matter of fact, very soon nobody will be needed, because as soon as the Maroon administration assigns the 25 acres of land to the African Union, and the African Union puts its western headquarters in a compound, then we will have had, it means that when you come a compound, is a Ghanaian. Each of the 54 African nations would leave a battalion here. It's the African Union headquarters. So it means that when you come a compound, is the Ghanaian battalion will be our security. We don't need them police. If we need police, we take it from the African Union. And we can send our young people who want to do police work to be trained. We don't have much need for police. It's not often, it's rare. It's the police who is always coming into Maroon Town trying to criminalize us. The amount of Dr. Jarrett, when he was a pilot, the amount of Dr. Jarrett, I'm breaking so much Ganda tree when he was a JDF pilot, him come a Maroon come cut down. And now after cutting down Maroon trees and denying Maroons them food, big up to Bernard Foster. And keeping Maroon children hungry. Here we find Rear Admiral Ardley Lewin be the head of the Legal Ganja Growers Association. After he made a phone call to send to cut down ganja tree in Maroon Town. Now you understand the hypocrisy. We will not be party to it, sir.
But when you say you're calling independent, right? I still want you to give me a direct answer, Daniel. How is that handled? 3 murders in a compound town for the year, you say. How was that? The persons who
over 300 years.
The persons who committed these crimes, right? How was that dealt with?
Well, one of them was turned over to the Jamaican government to handle the case. The rest of them was handled differently. It's over 300 years. It's not 3 modern murders. That may I say, the issue is not, the issue, is to show that per capita, we do not have a problem with crime. When it does occur, we can throw it down to the Jamaican government and just make them angry because we are presently not equipped to deal with it. That does not deny us being sovereign. Jamaican government turn over the policing of its waters via the shipwright agreement to the United States. Does that mean that the Jamaican government is incompetent? Or is it seeking international assistance and outside third-party assistance? Well, good for the goose, good for the gander, man. Leave Maroon alone. If we call in Jamaican police for help. If you think that it means that we're any less weak, then it means that Jamaica is weaker for having to need the U.S. Coast Guard to patrol its water. This is the hypocrisy. So you will point out to something that we do not recognizing that Jamaica is doing it tenfold greater. Trick them dog, them can't trick I.
When the police came in 2 different occasions and basically got run away, what is your assumption that the reason they came there for?
Because them know so them outside of them jurisdiction, they're not dunces. They know that the police that Chief run out know that they cannot. The police that Chief Curry run out know that they cannot go to a station and find a work order that says they were sent to cut down ganja in Maroon Town. You understand me? They can't. When I ran the police out at first, they cannot show no jurisdiction over a compound to say they were coming to tell us at 8 o'clock and tell us about disaster risk management act and we must go to our beds in a compound town. When you come through the gate of 1 yard, named Kinder. So they left because they knew they were out of their jurisdiction. It is just the same way that policemen stop you Jamaicans on the road. I hear the first thing him say. Policeman stop you and tell you say spot check. The last policeman do that, I say, officer, the car wash, there's no spots on it for you to check. However, you can't name a statute to tell me that gives you the authority to just stop me as going about my rightful, lawful business. I said, what you need to do, officer, is tell me if anyone in the car fits the description of someone having been involved in the perpetration of a crime. Or does the car fit the description of a car having been involved in the perpetration of a crime? Outside of that, you can't stop me and tell me about spot check. The car wash, no spot, no dip on it. But it's the foolishness that the police come and tell you all the time and they just stop. Yes, all right, officer, yeah.
Some would say that the teachings where the Maroons basically come out and say no, I teach the Jamaican people, say them no have no respect for it.
We're not telling that to Jamaican people. We're saying that we as Maroons have a rise. How is that code that come in? Enough them enough. We're talking to Maroons. If you're not a Maroon, back off and don't try to get in the conversation. We're teaching Maroons what their rights are based on international law. And that's a hypocrisy. I would say anyone who opposes that right is a dirty international criminal because the United Nations Charter for the Rights of Indigenous People say it must be so. So to go against the Maroon rights makes you an international criminal against the United Nations and the laws therein.
I heard a particular person say the precedents that the Maroons are set, right, is basically setting up the Jamaican people. And I know you say you're talking about Maroons. I know you're just...
But I normally don't discuss cowards because that's cowardice. Whoever said that He's a coward, more and buck him girl, cause 5 minutes me talk to him girl and she must let him. A baby that. That's a living coward that says that. How can the Maroons defend in their own rights that they clearly killed white people for? While white people was enslaved in your ancestors, we were killing them. But now, we are a threat to you because we want to uphold the rights that we killed for? No. We have the United Nations recognize us as indigenous. Remember, to show you that the UN recognize us, when the Jamaican ganja growers applied to the United Nations for an indigenous and alternative development project to grow cannabis outside of the established licensing arena, the United Nations said to them, we will grant you a UNAD program, but there are 2 people on the island. That's what the UN said. They said, so if we're going to grant you one, we have to give one to the Maroons. So how now go on like on a seaway? Wicked Jamaica. With there we are the foremost in your history. But only dirty Jamaica not go on like on a seaway. And anybody who go on like them not see respect the Maroons, right? We call them dirty Jamaica. When it's so wicked and hypocritical that you would steal money as a hero from Jamaica and then go on like on a seaway. You understand? So that's a psychosis. It means you're sick, you need treatment. If you don't want to take Nani as a national hero and then deny Maroons everything else. Hypocritical mockers in feasts gnash upon good people with them teeth.
You slightly touched on the meeting that was had with Jamaica's Prime Minister and a few members of the Maroon community earlier. You slightly touched on that. And a lot of talk was going on about them betraying Chief Curry and stuff like that, and right? What's your take on them meeting with the Prime Minister?
All right, let me just be frank. The whole issue with Chief Curry and his firearms is a big unnecessary argument. Here's why it's unnecessary. In the 1980s, one of the Azans was in his store downtown and he had his firearm that he had given to one of his little workers in his store. That worker, listen to me, Mr. Azan, you remember the history, cool. Big up to Joey Azan, Joseph Azan, big up yourself. Now, Mr. Azan gave one of his firearms to one of his workers in his store. That worker went outside in downtown with a firearm under his shirt. Now, the 2 young policemen just come out of training school, see the firearm. And when them step to him run going out of the store. And them run. The Azans lock the store door. And pull him the next firearm upon the police them. And handcuff the 2 police them. Listen to me, this is history. He handcuffed the 2 police them. After him give him license firearm to a man who not licensed to carry it. He handcuffed the 2 police and locked the store door and they couldn't come out. The long and short of it, Mr. Azan was eventually charged. Now here's the thing now, Mr. Azan was found guilty, but the court also said that he could not, because of a man of his prominence and his position, he could not be allowed to be in that position without a right and the right to defend himself. And they did not take away his firearm. This is in Jamaican court history now. You can go check it. So I say same thing. Even if Chief Curry was late in payment, because of his position, you must understand you should not try to put him in a position where he's undefended by taking away his firearm. If you never take away Mr. Azan firearm, Mr. Azan, white Azan, non-black Azan, is no more important than black Ashanti Maroon Chief Curry. Fire burn dirty Jamaica for that. You left Mr. Azan with his firearm when you tried to disarm Chief Curry. We say more fire. Unapologetic, hypocritical mockers in feast. But this is the corruption in Jamaica that you need to deal with.
But did the chief attempt to renew it afterwards? And
that's beside the point. What we're saying is that there's even when you have a firearm license, there's a grace period. There's lots of things that you don't need to try. That's not even an issue. That should be in the news. Why should that? I'm not. Why should that even be an issue in the news? There are more serious things happening. There are more serious breaches within the FLA than anything about Chief Curry not paying a firearm license fee. That's nothing compared to the breaches that exist in the FLA. So why are you paying attention to that? I say more fire and lots more fire.
May I agree
Hypocritical mockers in fees. We're calling them what they are.
But the reason why I asked you if he attempted to renew it is because of a speech I made. I heard Mr. Vegas make, right? And I'm quite sure.
I don't know the details. We are Chief Curry to talk about that. That's not, you understand? When we talk about other things to do with redevelopment for Maroon. But that's beside, what I'm saying is beside the point. Whether or not you went to renew it, it's beside the point. The fact that you tried to make this a front page news. While the very same agency, excuse me, the very same agency is embroiled in scandal. There's serious criminality going on there. Chief Curry's failure to pay a license fee is not criminal. Pay attention to the criminality that's occurring within the FLA.
But what I'm saying, Daniel, is the very same speech. Like I said, you did depend on the conversation that Mr. Vegas did have. I overheard you in the live with Mr. Vegas.
I spoke to a particular issue.
Right.
Now that you have asked me about the firearm issue, I'm addressing it. Vegas never asked me about that.
Right. So
I'm saying, when I give more information than people request about. So now that you talk about it, now I got to show you say it was a scam. It's unnecessary. Right. Mr. Azan, look now, Mr. Azan, listen to me, dirty Jamaican people. Oh, Mr. Azan forgive in firearm. So when I'm click a work at them, we're working in store. And you know, to say corruption that make this, that's the heights of corruption. So when you say, I'm going to change his name from Richard Curry to Richard Azan, forget some respect around here.
So yeah, say it's hypocrisy. But what I am asking you, a direct question, Daniel, right? I'm basically a piggyback off of what Vegas said, right? The chief said him no need permission from nobody. This is what Vegas said now, right? So Vegas was saying, for a man to say him no need permission, why would he then go to a government entity?
No, he was with that government agency prior to coming into the awareness and understanding of these rights. So not realize of him still not need permission, but it no means him now give them back them gun. That's the thing, we're so hypocritical that we do not understand progression. There was a time when me used to have me hearing a waves on my ears. I'm a diamond chip in my ears and I'm here brushed down well nice. And waves them you can surf on them. I have come into another awareness of myself. What you're going to do now? Just time me for how me used to behave when me hear in a waves. I'm young like wear Cavaricci pants and Capizia shoes.
You mentioned, say, we have discussions about the development of the Maroons and a compound town. Give us a little bit of insight on that, Daniel. Make we know what's in store for you.
No, and that's what I'm saying. You will see it. We're not here to discuss it with you. Because your government doesn't even discuss the moves that they're doing. When they were selling out the land to the Chinese, they never discuss it with you. So why do you think we should discuss what we're doing with you? We don't need your validation for nothing. That's the arrogance of Jamaican people. That they can't ask the government what they're doing to the Chinese, but they want us as Maroons. How dare you? We are 17. Your ruler, your owner, the Queen, surrendered to us in 1738. What makes you even think that you're evil in the same league with us? We are only just dip on the island and we're black and we interbreed. But we hold a different status. Your status puts you under the Queen. Our status puts us above the Queen. So if you want to be above the Queen, drop the Jamaican and become an indigenous national. And experience the gloriousness of the rights that it affords you. Because as long as you're an indigenous national, you don't pay tax, you don't pay duty off. I pay no duty at the off. Duty is only to be paid. All the rules of Jamaica are only subject to those who are citizens of the crown and who use. It's a company, it's a business, a transaction. I'm not going there as a company. I'm going there as a man. I'll pay you wharf duty if my goods up on the day a couple of days. For the wharf couple of days. But you can't be paying a tax to the crown. You know, already declare me tax free. You know.
Yeah, it's some valid points, Daniel.
As I usually do, a 96% average from prep school. Most of the time, right? Not because we brought anything to the table, but because we emulated success and correctness. We of ourselves were born as a blank sheet of paper, but we have spent our lives learning that which is right, correct, precise, and good. And we have simply emulated that. We would not even pretend. We have brought nothing new to the table. We just repeat that which is good, righteous, and worthwhile. That's all.
Right.
So we're going to make valid points because we are going to the substance. As Bob Marley says, some are leaf, some are branch. I and I are the root.
All right. I've seen where persons, I'm not call a specific name, are inviting Jamaicans to say, listen, get your Maroon ID, become a Maroon, stuff like that. Is that something open to Jamaicans?
You see, I don't know about that. I deal as an compound Maroon consistently. I have never wavered or tried to be anything else. So that is which I am schooled in and versed in the perspective of an compound Maroon and the historicity attendant to being a compound Maroon. I will not pretend. I'm not going to be fastidious or anything. I don't know about that. When I know, I will expound on it to you, but I don't know about it, so I'm admitting ignorance as to that era.
Now, if you as a prominent man in the Maroon community know of this, then it leads me to question.
No, I know of it, but I know nothing about it, so I'm not in a position to speak on it.
Okay, all right.
Knowing of something and knowing about it.
I understand. Me get you. Because it caused me a question it a while ago, like, because this has been promoted heavily, very heavily on social media.
Yeah, but then here's what you must understand. You remember way back when somebody came up with an invention called a wheel? You think you could have stopped other people from starting make wheel?
True.
So why is it we have a problem when sense presented to the people and people start emulate what makes sense? It doesn't mean anything. People do not photocopy. People not counterfeit foolishness, you know. A quality people try and make copy of, you know.
Right.
So if you want to know what is the quality, I don't see anyone going around trying to make State of Jamaica IDs. But I see people going around trying to make Maroon IDs. Where you think the quality exists? Since people do not try to emulate counter foolishness. From people are trying to copy you, it must mean that there's substance there.
Yeah, basically from the start of this reasoning, because I wouldn't even call it an interview, it's a reasoning. From the start of this reasoning, because you spill some knowledge on me and the listeners, because I'm looking at the comments and a lot of them like what them I hear, right? Now, from the start of this reasoning, you're basically straight up saying, listen, the present administration in Jamaica will answer to the Queen. Me I go call it that way since that's how you put it, right? We answer to the Queen. No stand a chance coming up against your community.
No. First and second is our one. They can fight for something after third, but we guarantee it come. We and them in the race, and we are going to come first and second. Two people in the race, and we going to come first and second. Them can fight for something after third. Impossible. The historicity is there. We have the case of the Saramacca Maroons of Suriname and the government of Suriname. The Saramaccans won. The indigenous people always win. It's called precedence, you know. So the international courts have no other choice but to rule in favor of the indigenous cause because the precedent set. What Jamaica government wants to do is to try to see if they can argue with us and create something that stays here. But once we understand that these issues are settled in international courts of independent jurisprudence, and once it goes to either the UN, the Inter-American courts, every international court, the indigenous people, the Jamaican government is going to be found in serious violation because the Jamaican government operates on a document called the Order of Jamaica 1962. The Jamaican government is basically a subservient of the crown. They don't have no real authority other than what the Queen give them. So international courts, I can tell them, so that them outside of them jurisdiction, they do not, in law, it is that they do not possess the requisite status to make any claims over the indigenous people. Their status is that of subservience of the crown. They can't do that. They all hold Jamaican. Maybe if they were to shed themselves from the Queen, maybe them could have tried, but standing as with Jamaican birth certificates, they have already lost.
This is a question from the comments, Daniel. Someone is saying, what is the difference between a regular person born in Jamaica and Maroons from a compound town? What is the difference? What makes you a Maroon compared to other regular Jamaicans?
Okay, first and foremost, if you were to test, we have been intermarrying for generations. Big up to the great Monroe, who are about 50 odd children. Because when we went down to Santa Cruz as Maroon and tell women say we have land, all 20 of them follow me come up here. Because the rest of man them down there so never own nothing. White people alone they do one land. So we were able to make lots of babies. And we interbreed with many Jamaicans. Because you must remember that we were brought by the Spaniards and then the British. Because it was 150 years war with the Spanish, then 80 years war with the British. So over 200 odd years, we were isolated, no touching nobody, free. 80 years war, then the British brought another set of slaves. The Africans come and enslave them. We and them never even get to interface. There was no interface with us and them until emancipation, you know. So, as a matter of fact, do you know what emancipation means? Emancipation means transferal of ownership. Go and check the law dictionary. It means transferal of ownership. So that is why the crown paid the slave master, because emancipation was the transferal of ownership of the blacks on the island from the slave master to the British crown. So the crown paid for them. So that's a big difference. The crown never paid anybody for us. We are literally truly free men. And my children, even my children are born to Jamaicans. It's almost like the hypocrisy is that many Jamaicans have American citizenship. And when they're ready, them flex as an American and get the attendant rights. And when it benefit them flex as a Jamaican. So it's the same thing with us. My Maroonness gives me certain rights as an indigenous according to the United Nations Charter for the Rights of Indigenous People. And if it benefits me, I will function as an indigenous. The same way many Jamaicans function as Americans when they travel and come around the world. That's the hypocrisy that everything they're questioning with the Maroons, they all do already. But they're saying like, no, why should you have it that way?
Daniel, Olano. Because me still not get the answer to the question when me ask you, my brother. Me still not get the answer. You started out by saying we intermate, and then you stray off to something else. What I'm saying,
but I'm telling you what the difference is. The difference is that I have certain rights being a Maroon that you don't have. I have a history, I have a culture. I can carry you and show you. We're up to 20 generations of the women in my family was born and carry around an old town. The average Jamaican don't even know which part of them great grandmother born. Because she could have born at St. Mary, and then the mother did come to Manchester, and then she go meet a man at town. Them don't even have historical continuity. It's a big difference to know who you are.
So you're not Jamaican?
And not who someone else says you are.
You're not Jamaican?
I cannot be a Jamaican. Anybody say I'm a Jamaican last means that you're a subject of the crown. I'm going to be a Jamaican. A dog born in a pig pen becomes a pig. So being born on this island, does it change who I am? So if the Maroon is a union between the Africans who the Spaniards brought and the indigenous of the island. If your daughter, if your son get a picnic with one of my daughter, that child can claim all of my wealth and all of yours. No. So if I'm indigenous, I have the rightful claim to the island. If it's even one drop of the indigenous blood pass through it. And that sets us apart. Same way the man who has an American passport is set apart from the Jamaican who don't have one. There are certain rights that come with that status. Go and check the United Nations Charter for the Rights of Indigenous People to know the plethora of rights that come with the status of being an indigenous, and see if you want those powers or not. I want those powers to not be subject to the crown. You want to stay with the crown? Stay with the crown. You like a slave master and you like slavery? Stay being a slave and use the Jamaican. Because right now, you're operating as a Jamaican citizen. Meaning all of the money, the state of Jamaica is a company set up by the British Crown. The shareholders of the state of Jamaica are members of the Order of the Knights of the Temple, the members of the House of Lords, and members of the British royal family. They are the owners of the company. You, the Jamaican, is the asset. Your birth certificate is counted in the international securities exchange as one of the assets of Jamaica. Them account for how much tax you're going to pay. That is why the Queen, is your tax the Queen live off of? It's the wealth of the commoners. That's why it's called the Commonwealth. That's the embarrassing thing, that you're all part of a game that you don't understand what you're trying to play to win. That's scary. How can you attempt to play a game to win that you have no understanding of? Pretenders, we need to stop pretending. I'm pretending, oh, you don't even know what it means to be a Jamaican, but you want to tell me to be one. What does it mean to be a Jamaican? It means that all your taxes go to the crown. It means that your birth certificate is traded on the international securities market. It means you're subjected to the crown because you use a full capital's name. You're in business with the crown. I am not when I stand as a Jamaican. That's what it means. I'm set apart and different, and all Maroons have that opportunity. And we also, if it benefits us, we can function dual citizenship. Just like how there are people who have French citizenship and or American or Canadian, because all of your tennis players and your sports players, in order to not pay tax, get citizenship in Monaco. So stop being, get world savvy, Jamaicans. Get world savvy. You have computers in your hand. Get world savvy, man, and understand these technicalities have been existing and white people have been benefiting it. The only potential that exists now for black people to benefit from these things is in a compound town, and we set a tax-free haven for black people globally, which is legal and lawful under international law. That's what you have, but you want to fight against it in your ignorance. We will not relent, and we are indomitable, just as though we were never enslaved. Don't everybody think you can beat us. We already show you that. So while you were being whipped on the plantation, we was kicking back, jumping in rovers, making multiple babies with multiple baby mamas, and having all the fresh fruits and things to eat for the last 300 years when you did that on plantation and take with. Stop trying to subject us to your subjugation. Liberty or death. Or better yet, we will not die for it. We are ready to kill for it. My ancestors killed for it, and it is very important that I am here and that this work be done, so I will not die for it, but I'm ready to kill for it.
Daniel, the reasoning good so far, but we are going to continue it, you know. We're going to continue it, as I tell you earlier, that I'm going to have you back with a guest, Imhotep, to, you know, dissect this conversation even more, right? So me and you, we talk again, you know, half year, and we set a date when...
Yeah, man.
Again.
And like, we're looking for the response from the viewers. And like we said to them, don't take my word. Go and look at it. Get first thing to understand the situation that you're in. Go and download the Constitution of Jamaica. And type it in and then look at the heading of the first page, what it says. Know what is happening to you. Then go and look at your birth certificates and look at those numbers. Ask yourself, do you know what those numbers refer to? So why are you using this thing to identify you? Acknowledge the position you're in. You understand me? And if you're anything, I can refer you to the materials and the documentaries that you can go to free up your mind from this trick that they played on you. And it's everywhere, you know. So all the Spanish colonies, those birth certificate money go, and all their taxes go to Spain. All the French colonies, all their birth certificate and their attendant taxes go to France. It's a game they're playing on us. You think you're free, but we still live on for you. The British Commonwealth is because it's the wealth of the commoners that keeps the royal family. It's the crown alone allowed to levy tax. All your taxes go to the crown. That's why Jamaica has a budget. A budget means that they're not talking about all the available monies, you know. It's what they get to spend out of the available money. That's what a budget is. If Jamaica was free, you would not have a budget. You would have a public accounts. That means you see how much money came into the tax office, how much it costs to pay the workers and pay the light bill and maintain the tax office, and how much profit the country makes. You don't get that. You get a budget. You know, star. We feel it for my 3 million, the 3 million on the island. You know, sister, being a Jamaica is a scam and you get used. So right now, if you start doing business as the state of Jamaica and start interfacing with the world as the independent Republic of Jamaica, it means that all the bills that were owed, all the money that was owed by the state of Jamaica, that money, all of those loans and everything, don't have to be paid by the people of the Republic of Jamaica, you know. It has to be paid by the shareholders of the state of Jamaica who was making the profit. So the British Crown and them would have to pay all of the state of Jamaica debt, you know. Right now, because of apartheid, a food tax are paid. Step away from it and the British Crown have to pay that debt. And Jamaica, all Jamaicans start from zero debt as members of the independent Republic of Jamaica. Make up your mind. You want to live in debt, die in debt, or you want to start free for your children?
As Mr. Daniel, I love the reasoning, right? And it's one that I'm quite sure the people are going to want to hear more of. But we're out of time now, my brother. So we are going to schedule another one again, as I stated earlier. But it will not be just me. It will be myself, you, and Imhotep. I'm quite sure you're familiar with Imhotep, right?
When you're ready.
So next Sunday we are gonna do it. You know, once I can.
When you're ready.
All right, and then we do it. So people, make sure you want to stick and stay for that one day when it comes. Make sure you want to set it now on the calendars because it's going to be an interesting one. You know, Daniel is spilling, you know, his facts, and Imhotep is going to be challenging some of what Daniel has said. You understand? So that should be a very interesting one. All right, Daniel, my general.
No, all right, we look forward to that because we have never seen a challenge that has ever come. All it is that people have come purporting understandings that we had to correct for them. There's never a challenge. And there's always us correcting them.
And see, that is what I'm saying, you know, Daniel, because see, I'm here and I'm looking in the comments, right? And there are some persons who may not be agreeing with what you're saying while others are agreeing. But see, this is my stance. You see, the reason for this reasoning is so that we can teach and educate and even
the thing is, I don't want the man who is not agreeing. Here's what I want the person who can show me where what I present is wrong. Just not agreeing doesn't cut it. Show me, says, okay, when you said that you were in error in law because international law says this. I ain't going off any bat. I'm going off precedents already set in international law and historicity. Like I said, bring it on, because anybody challenge us when come third. First and second is always our work.
Right.
We look forward to that.
Definitely. It should be a very interesting one, and I look forward to it too. So once again,
all right, my king.
Thanks for joining me on the platform today, and may we talk off here. See?
Bless up. Yes, I.
All right, so family, that right there was Daniel Basra, right? A prominent member of the Maroon community in Jamaica, right? And like I said, it was a good reasoning. You understand? I'm one who I like to listen. For most of you who know me already, I like to listen when people talk and take in the information and, you know, leave it up to uno to listen and observe as well. You understand? So next Sunday, hopefully, you know, I'm going to reason with Imhotep and see if that works for him. You know, Daniel already agreed just now and say, yeah, all right, whenever. So we are going to set it up and see how it works. So Imhotep, I see you in the stream, my brother. Make sure you say you shoot me a message Me already send you the number, all right, so we can set up this and make it happen. You understand? Because it should be very interesting. All right, family. Thanks so much for being here for another reasoning this evening. All right. Thanks to everybody who support the platform in whichever way you support the platform. You know, your support is always appreciated. All right. You know, this is what we do over here. We try to bring information, you understand, to persons who want the information. All right. Yeah, Daniel says he's not Jamaican. You understand? So, all right. And, you know, it spill a lot of things this evening, right? Where I'm quite sure somehow no take in and like, all right, and based on some of the comments, somehow no like one a year neither. But you know, to each his own. All right. So family, once again, big up on yourself. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot for the support on the platform, and stay tuned. I will definitely in the next upload, once the date and time is set for the reasoning between Daniel and Imhotep, all right, I will definitely make it known to everybody so they can stick and stay and prepare for it. All right. So blessings once again, and I will see you now in the next upload or the next live stream. Blessings.
This is the end of another interesting video.
Right,
Who want
I'm
big up
quite sure
Unstoppable for this
techie
entertaining
like,
and interesting
right,
informational session. We truly appreciate it because there are so many people who still are not aware
family,
of some
once
of
again,
the things
big up on
going
yourself.
on
Thank you so
in
much
the
for being
Maroon
here.
community.
Thanks a lot for the
So we
support
want
on
to
the
thank you
platform.
for that.
And
bless up Daniel
I will
and be
definitely
prepared
in
for
the
the
next
Imhotep
upload,
interview.
once the
Yeah,
date
man.
and time is
That's
set
gonna
for
be
the
an
reasoning
interesting
between
one. The
Daniel
same
and
guy who was
Imhotep.
on the
All right,
interview with
I will
Mr.
definitely
Vegas.
make
Yeah,
it
man, I
known
explain the
to
treaty.
everybody
Him
so
say
they can
one.
stick
So
and stay
if
and
you do not
prepare for
subscribe
it.
to the
All
channel,
right,
go ahead and
so
do so
blessings once
now.
again, and
Thanks
I
for
will see you now
watching and
in the next
stay
upload
safe.
or the next live stream. Blessings.